twice.
The time by Jamaica Mountain Peak Golden Turmeric Latte is
12 p.m.
It's Monday, April 29, 2024. Welcome to CVM News at noon. I'm Nika Lewis. The government says it's looking to reform Jamaica's judicial policies in a bid to promote democracy. Minister Marlene Malahoo Fort was speaking at the Policy Construction Forum at the University of the West Indies recently.
It is indisputable that the foundation of democracy is a legislature elected freely and periodically by the people. Without majority rule, it is said, as reflected in the power of the legislature, there is no democracy. It is also said that legislation and legislatures have a bad name in legal and political philosophy, a name sufficiently disputable to cast doubt on their credentials as respectable sources of law. However, undermining the legislature undermines democracy.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF is teaming up with churches in the St. Andrews South Police Division in a bid to tackle crime head-on. The groups met at the Hagley Park Seventh-day Adventist Church Hall last week under the theme, "Come, let us reason together," a call to action to the churches. Ronaldo Adams reports.
Lawmakers, ministers of national and other social groups have all called for divine intervention as part of the answer to the nation's crime problem. Now, the Jamaica Constabulary Force has turned to the clergy for help. Commanding officer for the St. Andrew South Division, Superintendent Damian Manderson, is urging churches to play a more active role in safeguarding young people and their communities.
It's an ongoing corner street by street meetings and walkthroughs that we have been having. And that is something as well that we ask pastors to come and be a part of. Ask you ministers to come and be a part of. Let us see you. Let your members see you as well being out there. You give them confidence. And again, as we have just discussed, you will cause our criminals or those gangsters to realize that there's much unity against whatever you're doing. So
Superintendent Manderson emphasized that police officers are also humans, dedicated to enhancing residents' sense of security.
We were watching the 10, the 12, the 14-year-olds assisting to take up the chairs and packing them after our meeting on the van. And when it was done, could we get them off the van? They insisted, sir, to Miss Walters, we want to go and drop them off with the van, and the patrol had to carry them down to the center, and they drop it off, and they come back, and she said, no, if you come off of the van, no, can't go back to the station, and come back, and that's how we could get them off. And I said to them, this is an experience for them, because the only time they have seen people in this van is when they're going to prison. That's the only time they have seen people in the van. So there's a thought that they can now interact in such a loving way, in such a friendly way with the police. That was already a barrier broken. And that's what partnerships does. It diminishes and destroys the fear of crime.
Meanwhile, Pastor Michael Lewis praises the initiative.
There are 3 P's in this country that have to look out for themselves: the pastor, the police, and the politician. And when he said that, it's not something I ever thought about, but the truth is that we have to get together. We have to all get together to make the work a reality. And we know that our interest, the church is about salvation of souls. It targets spiritual focus. We know that the police is about the saving of souls, but primarily the physical. So we're on the same page. We're in the whole business of saving. And I'm really happy that we can partner together.
Ronaldo Adams, CVM News.
The Tourism Enhancement Fund, TEF, plays a vital role in the development of many tourist attractions in Jamaica. But among popular concern is the lack of access to a number of local beaches. TEF Executive Director Dr. Carey Wallace says the agency is working to change that narrative, as well as improving the state of other beaches.
We have 13 beaches on our cards now.
30 or 13?
13 beaches are dotted across Jamaica. I mean, these are development programs that are huge budgets and so on, so it takes a while for us to get there. But just because we're doing 13 doesn't mean it's only 13 that we'll end up doing. In fact, there are 66 beaches that NEPA has presented to us that are available. We took the first 13 in terms of our capacity to develop. So we are at advanced stages of designs and all those. In fact, 4 are at the stage where we can begin works in this financial year. And so our idea is that if we're blessed as a country with a lot of beaches.
And as more Jamaicans seek ways to earn money, the National Commercial Bank NCB is inviting individuals to invest in the company. Through a grand opportunity, the company is encouraging Jamaicans to take advantage of this offer. Speaking on Sunrise this morning, NCB Head of Wealth Management, Dr. Carrion Hepburn Malcolm, highlighted the importance of investing.
Most people want to be financially better off. Even if you're wealthy, you usually want to be wealthier. And if you're not wealthy, you want to be wealthy, right?
Yes.
If it's even to be able to provide for your family or meet, your needs, everybody wants to be in a financially sound situation. The other thing I'll touch on is that most people think about it, but they don't do anything about it. No, I want to be rich, and what? And last but not least, people think that by saving you can be rich. That's very hard. Usually you have to be investing. You can save to accumulate a lump sum, which you can then invest, but just saving won't cut it. So this is why opportunities like these are important for people to capitalize on, because you either have to do it through business ownership or through participating in business ownership via the purchasing of shares.
In other news now, a mother is in police custody following the tragic death of her 80-year-old son, who perished in a fire on Friday night. CVM News understands the child was locked in and left alone. Residents are now pointing fingers at the mother, alleging she struggles with mental health challenges. Celine Campbell shares this story.
The mother of the 8-year-old, whose charred remains were found beneath the rubble of his Westmoreland home sometime after midnight on Friday, has been taken into custody. Jamil Richardson, a grade 3 student at the Peggy Barry All-Age School, who resided with his mom in Top Lincoln Grange Hill, was reportedly home alone when the house caught fire. When CVM News visited the scene, we learned the 29-year-old mother had just been released from hospital a few days prior.
She's a good girl. She usually work at hotel and things, but I don't know if you lose any work and things, you understand? But you really walk out and then you stay. But he get sick out. And around 3 days, he come back from hospital. You understand? And that happened. Since he come out and he getting medication, she burn it up. And say no mad. And she did the hospital. Pick up with so the time them have him down a station, take her to the hospital.
The father of young Richardson, who refused to speak on camera, recalls the day his child's mother was initially taken to the hospital for displaying what he describes as unusual behaviors.
It's somebody in the yard and no one mother hold her. And she run over there, and bring a line out and phone inside. She run over there and come hang on for me. And me have to tire. Put her in a car. We'll leave in the hospital. This man can't borrow. Go down it.
Member of Parliament for Westmoreland Western, Moreland Wilson, extended condolences to the family.
The initial reports are truly disturbing. I just want to start by saying that sincere condolences to the family and friend of Jamil, the young man, 8 years old from what I heard, that lost his life in this tragic incident. And from all accounts, it seems that his mother has some mental health issues, and for more persons to come forward and to speak to the police.
When the fire department arrived on the scene, it was already too late to rescue anyone or salvage anything. Richardson's body was found during the cooling down operation. Celine Campbell for CVM News.
CVM News at noon returns after this break.
certain moments in life you'll cherish forever, like finding love, realizing your life is going to change forever, creating your dream home. These are your great moments, and helping you to achieve them is ours. Chris and Charles, powering great moments since 1992. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Recycling partners of Jamaica. Yeah, we got to make a change, and we have to do it now, can't wait for later. We put plastic in its place, and we all can agree that will be safer than in the gullies and in the drains. Recycling partners of Jamaica. We put plastic in its place, yeah, the place of it clean. PET, the top of the ethylene, HDPE, buckle up to get screen. Baby to granny, everybody roping. Yeah, we got to go green, you know what I mean. See the sign from the bin, if we drop it in, through car window you flick, that another thing. And we don't want no garbage in this game. No, we handle it up, but them are not the same. So listen up, Jamaica, I'm saying it's time to make a change. Recycling partners of Jamaica. We put plastic in its place, and we all can agree that will be safer than in the gullies in the heavy rains. Recycling partners of Jamaica. We put plastic in its place.
Welcome back. It's now time for a discussion segment, and today we're looking at sexually transmitted infections, STIs, as we close out April, which is observed as STI Awareness Month. I bet you did not know that. Joining me to discuss this is Mr. Calvin Brown, Digital and Social Media Officer at the Jamaica AIDS Support for Life, popularly known as JASL. Welcome, Mr. Brown.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Mr. Brown, let's go right into it. Talk to me a little about what JASL does and why it's important in Jamaica.
All right, so JASL, which means Jamaica AIDS Support for Life, we are a human rights-based HIV-focused organization which looks at HIV prevention, HIV treatment, education, and everything relating to that. This organization is very important. We've been around since 1991. What we do is, as I said, HIV prevention. So we do testing and education all around the country. We visit communities, we visit schools, we visit various areas, and we allow persons to know their HIV status. We educate them so they know the do's and the don'ts, they know the facts about HIV, and we're able to dispel the myths and misconceptions that a lot of persons have. But also, most importantly, we also provide HIV treatment. So for persons who are found to be living with HIV, we're a one-stop shop. We do the testing and we also provide the treatment, and of course, it's all free of cost.
I like that part, the free of cost, because somebody might be watching wondering, how do I get help for a relative or a friend, or even for themselves? But what are the latest numbers pointing to, and should there be or are there any notable trends?
Well, the latest numbers in terms of HIV show an increase in the incidence of HIV in the 16 to 24, 16 to 30 age group. That's where the new infections are coming about, and that's when we're testing persons, that's what we're seeing. In terms of STIs outside of HIV, while we might not have all the data, we can definitely say that in terms of syphilis, the number of new cases, it's greater than it would have been before. In fact, last year, 2023, of all the persons who would have tested, 9% would have been reactive for syphilis. And in terms of this quarter, or the quarter just finishing January to March, we would have tested 2,488 people across our 3 chapters. That's Montego Bay, St. Ann, and also Kingston. And of that number, a total of 14 persons who would have been reactive to HIV.
Put that into context for us a little bit, because those numbers you gave just now are in relation to, if you could say, previous years, previous quarters. How are those numbers matching up?
Well, in terms of the new infections, in terms of comparing with previous chapters, in previous times, in terms of HIV and syphilis, I might not have the data on hand to tell you,
yes,
but what I can definitely let you know is that in terms of HIV incidence in Jamaica, we have approximately 30,000 persons living with HIV in Jamaica currently, and actually of that number, only about 50% are actually on treatment.
Oh no. Well, it's a good place for us to take a quick break because we want to talk a little more about STI and its awareness and situation in Jamaica. So right after this break.
Truth is, you can live life to the fullest with HIV. This time signal is brought to you by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. The time is
12:15.
Welcome back to CVM News at noon. We're talking STI awareness in the month of April, which is being commemorated as STI Awareness Month. We have a representative from JASL. He is Mr. Calvin Brown. Mr. Brown, welcome back.
Yes.
All right. So before we went to the break, you touched on a very major issue about 50% of people diagnosed with certain diseases and STIs. Just go back to that and then make it make sense for the viewers who are wondering, what exactly does this therefore mean?
All right. So I was saying that an approximate 30,000 persons in Jamaica are living with HIV, and of that number, only about 50%. Or even 49 are actually on HIV treatment. So what does that mean? Well, a lot of persons have never been tested for HIV. So that's the first thing. We always let persons know that if you've never been tested, you can't know your status. The only way to know whether or not you have HIV is to be tested. So in terms of personal responsibility, it really is on everyone to ensure that they get tested to know where they fall, because if you are living with HIV and you're not on treatment, you know the potential risk exists of transmitting the virus unknowingly. So it's really knowing your status and being able to go on treatment as soon as possible to ensure that you're able to live a long, healthy life just the same.
And back in the day when I was growing up, certainly there were common misconceptions about STI and all the stigma attached to even knowing that someone had the disease. So tell us how we can address these, the stigma, the misconception, and promote accurate understanding and prevention.
Well, as you speak about the stigma and the misconceptions, it's interesting because just we've been having a series of videos for the last couple of weeks. Every Monday we have Mythbuster Mondays. We've been going around in Kingston, in Montego Bay, in St. Ann. We've been speaking to people. We've been doing this Vox Pop series, trying to ensure that persons, dispel these misconceptions about HIV. And really and truly, for us to get rid of those misconceptions, we have to be open to knowledge. A lot of persons, we have these ideas in our head. They might not have come from sources that we can say are trustworthy, but because these are prevailing ideologies that persons have, people hold dear to them, and at the end of the day, they're harmful and they do not help the situation. So persons have to be able to be willing to know and to receive the facts as they exist. We're talking about the science, not the stigma, not the negative thoughts that persons have, but what the facts actually say about HIV and STIs in general. And once we're able to get those facts out there and get persons to know the truth about these things, then we're able to, that will help us in our fight against HIV and other STIs.
You know, it's interesting, Mr. Brown, because earlier when you were giving us the profile on the age cohort of people who are most exposed or who are showing up with more signs, for example, of some of these STIs, you mentioned pretty young, 16 to 24, that age cohort. You would expect these young people to be among the know-it-alls. They have access to technology, they have access to information. So what is preventing them from tapping into that knowledge and protecting themselves?
Well, you say they have the access to the information and the technology and all of that, but having the access might not necessarily mean that that's where their interest lies. And that's why it's a part of our responsibility as media, as adults, as persons who have influence to ensure that the spaces exist for the correct information to be given to these students, especially the teenagers in high school. The message of abstinence always pushed, but at the end of the day, are they really being abstinent? And we have to ensure that the children know the information, they know the facts, and that they're able to protect themselves in that way. We know different families, different parents, everybody will have different views on sex and all of that. But the reality is, if we want our children, our young persons to be able to protect themselves, we have to arm